Happy Sunday, all you mentees. This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition. And join me today for an overview of the Savage Sword of Conan Omnibus Volume 4 from Marvel Comics. Let's do this thing. Now, before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and all the folks at Marvel for sending us a copy of this omnibus. This omnibus came out during that week of Omni-geddon, the first week of the year, with a bunch of Omnis like Uncanny X-Men Volume 3, X-Men by Jim Lee and Chris Claremont, and a lot of people have been asking me, where's the overview, where's the overview? Literally, I got the book in on Thursday, and I've been reading it because this is my first time reading these books, so of course I'm not done. I think I'm like 4 issues in, but I will say, here, let's go ahead and look at all this together, though, before we get started talking about this book. But here are all the covers. These are all the standard edition covers, including this one here by Adi Granov. To your left is the direct market cover. But these modern covers for the standard editions are freaking beautiful. I love this one. And Adi Granov happens to be one of my favorite artists. So let's look at all these together. These, as I mentioned, are all standard edition covers, so they're all the new modern covers. This is what is important because this is how you're going to put it on your bookshelf. But here is what it looks like with all the other books, all the spines. You have the Omnibus up at the top, the Savage Sword of Conan, the original Marvel Years logo here in the middle. This one looking a little bit darker. And it might be the printer that they use for this one. And then volumes at the bottom. And of course the picture of the greatest Cimmerian himself down there. Roy Thomas and Big John Buscema are the main 2 people working on this. And here's what the backs look like. Each one of these retailing for $125. Even the font appears a little bit darker than these. I don't know why that is. And actually the marble looking color that they use around there looks a little darker, but all the pictures are in the back. All of this is mature content, and I'll explain why when I open the book. And like I said, $125 each retail price. As far as Under the Dust jacket, let's check it out. Of course, the exact same design that's underneath all the previous volumes, and I'm sure the logo, yep, is back here. Very cool. Now let's take a look inside. And of course, before opening this up, I did want to say that this is different than the original Marvel Year comics. And I'll explain why as I'm talking about this particular omnibus. Here we have those same bookend pages. This amazing image of Conan and his lady friend. Yeah, I love Conan. I have grown to appreciate these stories so much. Roy Thomas is the main writer. He is joined by Don Glued, Jim Neal. Mike W. Barr does something pretty interesting here towards the end of the final issue. And here are the rest of the credits. Big John, of course, doing all the pencils and the layouts for most of the issues, with the exception of issues 46 and 59. And then, of course, they tell you who else helped him. And then the illustrators are the ones that do, like, the prose. Like the novels that are back here. Not full novels, but stories that are written out. That's what the illustrators are. Here's the table of contents. It's a big book. This one here has 976 pages. Here's your introduction by the phenomenal Roy Thomas. One thing I will say is that do not read this if you've not read the book. Thomas himself says that you will be spoiled on a lot of the things that he likes to write in here. So he talks about details, behind the scenes. The man is a freaking walking computer. I have no idea how he remembers so many things. I know when people watch my channel, they're like, Omar, how the heck do you remember this stuff? Because I don't remember important things like going to pick up my kids from school. Just kidding. That's never happened. But on the same lines, I did have to be reminded to pick up the girls because my wife knows me better than I know myself. But no, seriously, I have no idea how, like, I may be able to do that, but he remembers details of where he was, who he was arguing with at the time, depending on his artist. So there is some behind the scenes drama back here. A lot of things I found out about John Buscema, that apparently he had a favorite inker and he did not like this other inker who I'm a huge fan of when both of them are working together. So it was kind of disheartening to find that out. So the Gem in the Tower kicks off this storyline in issue 45. So this does collect issues of Savage Sword of Conan 45 through 60. Big John doing a lot of the artwork. Here's Ernie Chan. I love this guy's art. Love his inks. And most of the time what you'll see in here is John Buscema and Tony DeZuniga working together. So what is the main differences between this and the Conan the Barbarian, the original Marvel years? Well, other than the black and white, this has mature content because this was originally a magazine. And it's pretty cool because the dimensions are different than your traditional comic books. So when you look at it like this, you have the date up here, the issue number, and then of course this border down here because the magazines were wider and, you know, taller than your average comic books, but also wider. So I'm surprised how they were able to do this and collect it in an omnibus format. So when people look at it and say, well, that's not really full size, you would have to have warped the art, and nobody wants that if you wanted it full size. Like, I know, I don't speak for everybody, I'm sorry, but I'm sure most of us did not want the art messed with at all. So this is the best that they could do, keeping it with a traditional Marvel omnibus size. So these stories here, unlike the Conan books from the Marvel comics, were also done out of chronological order. So either Conan is older, he's back to being younger at a younger time. Actually, the last story I read in here, what was it? Something big happens in Conan's life, and there's an actual change, and then the next story arc kicks when he was in his 20s again. So, lots of nudity, more violence. Yeah! So that's what we want out of Conan. So this is where, you know, the mature content came. This is where people wanted to see decapitations, people getting stabbed, blood, guts. Not that many guts, but you get the idea. And lots, especially this volume, lots of nudity, which is awesome. So I'm going to make sure when I go back and do this that I didn't show any of that. So, of course, this being a magazine, it's also an anthology, so they also collected issues of stories of Cull and stories of Solomon Kane, which were also Robert E. Howard creations, and eventually those will get their own omnis. But none of the Cull stuff, none of the Solomon Kane stuff is collected in these particular omnibus collections of Savage Sword of Conan. It just strictly is the Sword of Conan. And here is showcasing this amazing artwork here in the splash page. People getting dismembered. He's such a badass. Who doesn't love Conan? My wife just recently she's reading the Jason Aaron Conan, the oversized hardcover, because I want to look at decapitated people. Heck, not for the faint of heart. Gotta put some near mint condition little stickers on that one. So we also have these house ads right here. I love these things that they kept them all. And this is in the back of the magazines where you can subscribe to the rest of the Marvel magazines, like the Incredible Hulk had one, which featured a backup of Moon Knight, Tomb of Dracula, of course, Crazy Magazine, Howard the Duck. And Conan is the only one that outlasted all of those, starting in 1975, going all the way into the 90s. So people always ask me, like, how many of these will there be? Quite a few. I'm serious. If we're up to issue 60 right now and there were 220-something issues of Savage Sword, we're looking at least 13 volumes. And I'd be happy to have every single one of those on my bookshelf. And just showcasing what all these magazines look like. So pretty much you have your front piece here, your cover. I'm sorry, the cover. This is the front piece right here, drawn by another artist. All of this in black and white. And then you have the main story. And then the prose stuff sometimes is in the back, where you can see, yes, Ernie Chan, look at that, that is so freaking, there's muscles on top of muscles of Conan. Oh, this must be okay, so this wraps up one of the storylines right here, and these are all the pinups. Actually, I was looking in the back, the original art for this is back there, so that's really cool. So this is all of Conan's ladies. Of course, you have Red Sonja, Belit, Valeria, and Mirage, and my boy Conan back there. And then Roy Thomas was not only writing Conan the Barbarian, Savage Sword of Conan, but also went on to do another spin-off series, King Conan, and introduced us to the character of, what is his name? Khan, the prince. So that's Conan's son. And that has not been collected in omnibus format for those asking. Now, I have not read this, but I was flipping a little bit through here when I was opening up the omnibus properly. The inks on this seem really light, and it's the only issue in here. And I was reading in the back, there was an introduction of a previous collection in the 90s that collected some of these stories, because you have Conan the Liberator, that's probably the most popular story here, the Treasure of Tranicos. So some of those collections have been collected previously in the 90s, and this is one that they left out because apparently the inks they were trying out on this, and it's nobody new. It's still Rudy Nebres, who had inked previously before, but I think they were just trying out a different form of inking, made the pages look so much lighter that they could not reprint it. They couldn't collect it in that one collection. So, but it's here. It's completely all in here, but it is a little bit lighter than the rest of the book. And here, let me show you. See, the inks here are a lot heavier. There's tones that they use, and beautiful art pieces. There's so much talent in these. I had no idea, because you not only have Big John Buscema and Tony DeZuniga and Ernie Chan, but you also have Ernie Colon, who apparently came. That's one thing that I did read that Roy Thomas was talking about, was apparently an Archie artist. You have Gil Kane. There's a Neil Adams thing that I need to show back here. Actually, let's get back here and then talk about the extras, because I don't want to spoil this for myself. Now, before we look at that last part of issue 60, I did want to say that this is the final Roy Thomas ongoing Conan story for Savage Sword. So after this, I'm sure there's a couple of other stories that Marvel used for Savage Sword of Conan, but he takes a break for about 7 or so years. He comes back later. So this is the final issue with Roy Thomas, and he's working with Big John in the first story, right here. You have John Buscema and Danny Bulandi. So I've not read any of this, and it's kind of sad to see him go, because he was there from the beginning. But this is what I wanted to show here. This is written by Mike W. Barr, and it is the storyboards. Neil Adams supplies the storyboards to talk about the differences between storyboards and comic book art, and how comic book art, has a finish to it. Like, once it's done, the panels are done, and where you're restricted for these wide panels here when you're doing storyboards. So I thought that was really cool. Now, none of this was used for Conan the Barbarian, of course, the movie, but it's really cool that I had no idea that this was even a thing, that they had done this storyboard, worked on this together. And it's really cool to just see it flow, and then the little notes here explaining what needs to be drawn. And as far as extras, we have house ads over here, and then the subscription stuff. You saw the black and white version of that. Man, the cover sketches, to own some of this stuff would be so awesome. Gotta put some near mint condition stickers on that lady. Here's the original freaking art right here by Ernie Chan. That is awesome. I love looking at stuff like this behind the scenes. How it looks, how they make it look, how they made that sword stand out in the black and white. These are the Treasury editions, so these were recolored stories from Conan the Barbarian, or Savage Sword of Conan, and reprinted later on, and these are the covers that they used. And the front pieces, gosh, Big John. Dude, that dude was a master. Now, I'll let you be surprised by some of the other stuff. Let's talk about this binding, though. Now, you have 976 pages, so it's not much of an eye. Then this one is printed at the iMac printer in Turkey. So I've talked about that one before. They're the ones that did the Conan by Kurt Busiek Omnibus, and they've done a couple of other books. But let's look at some spreads here, because there are some there's a lot of spreads in these books. Normally, when you're looking at books from this time, there's hardly any, but here is one right here. As you can tell, there's a gutter curve right there, mainly because of that lack of the eye. So it doesn't give you the full picture. You have to hold it down to see what's going on in here in the gutter. So that's what I talk about when I talk about gutter loss. So there is gutter loss right there. When you get to about the middle, it's fine. There's hardly anything here that's missing from the art. But that's mainly because it's towards the middle. But it's mainly towards the beginning and towards the end that you start seeing that. Well, I can use this. You can see that I have to hold down a little bit to see his last finger right there. And again, towards the end, the gutter curve right here, that gives you a little bit of gutter loss for the spreads back here. There's not that many spreads in the back. They're mainly towards the first, well, at least from what I've read, the first part, and then some in the middle. And as far as the paper quality, and I'm just comparing it to volumes 1 and 2 because I realized the third one was also a one-off that was printed in Malaysia, I believe. But it's thinner than the ones in volumes 1 and 2. But also not as thin as the Kurt Busiek paper. So if you have that one, this one's a little bit thicker, but not as thick as these right here. And the first two were printed at the Leo Paper Company. But I know I wanted to go over that, but that, as they say, is that. Now, if you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online source for collected editions up to 50% off retail price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on excellent packaging, so your stuff gets to you in excellent condition, and they have amazing customer service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And for all you Minties that are watching, if you're a first-time customer, don't forget to mention that Near Mint Condition sent you their way for a promotional credit on free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. Cheapgraphicnovels.com, your source for the hottest books with deep discounts, customer service, and excellent shipping that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and the build of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you're picking up the Savage Sword of Conan Omnis, or if you're getting just the original Marvel Year Omnibus, or if you're just getting the modern stuff like the Kurt Busiek Conan Omnibus that came out late last year, or even the most modern stuff by Marvel like the Jason Aaron oversized hardcover that I will be doing an overview of on this channel, so keep an eye out for that video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, that gives you more of a reason to subscribe. If you have any more questions, please leave those comments down below. Now, I've not finished reading this one. I need to set time aside to finish reading this one, because as you all know, this is my first time reading these stories, so please don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Even if you didn't enjoy the video, check us out on Redbubble and on Patreon. Amazing ways to support the channel, and thank you to our existing patrons. More importantly, please, all of you, stay healthy, stay safe, and much love.